So
After
my
talking
family
for an hour and a half, yeah,
today
that's
has reminded me, hey, make sure you share it to the world. Okay, I am. I'm going to.
oh, I
Okay,
see that. I'm gonna blow my nose though.
queuing up, up.
It's now, it says it's now streaming on live.
Okay, we're in. Look at that. I love it. Okay, everybody. Hi, Facebook world. I'm so excited to be here with my friend, Brandy Hickman. My name is Brenda Bauer with forkfighter.com, and I love helping busy mamas go from surviving to thriving. And we are kicking off this interview series with people fill my soul because I think they're going to fill your soul too. So I need to pop over to where I have Brandy's bio. So, Brandy Hickman is a national board certified inspired nutrition and health coach. She leads kitchen therapy sessions, which I've gotten to go to one, and it is therapy with authenticity and speaking from the heart. She shares passion for mindfulness and spiritual connection in all aspects of life, which you're going to hear today. Such a treat, from our food to our thoughts to our relationships. Living Light is her inspired nutrition and health coaching business where she integrates health coaching and creating her signature program, Kitchen Therapy, which is individual, group, and membership coaching programs. She guides people in the kitchen with simple solutions by letting go of hangups. Anybody got any food hangups? I think you might. I know I do. And
Yeah.
discovering a better relationship with their kitchen. She is also the owner of To Be Well Integrative Health Collaborative, a space for those of you watching that live in Springfield. I bet you know about it, for people seeking natural preventative health care and healthcare providers wanting to collaborate with other professionals and get support for their businesses. So, Brandy is offering a free 30-day trial of her kitchen therapy, and we will put the link for that in the comments when we hang up. So, Brandy, I want to start with, how are you? Like, really, how are you?
Well, today I'm running about 45 minutes behind. And so you got to experience that because I had my time wrong. So I would say, how am I doing? I'm the type of person who does wear rose colored glasses. So I'm fairly a positive person. But, like everyone else, this year has been gifts, but it's also been a lot of trials and learning and processing and trying to stay in light amongst chaos. So, how am I doing? I would say that I'm overall doing well, but I struggle. I struggle with structure of structure with kids, or not, structure with myself and balancing, and going through uh, menopause is has been a fun experience. So I'm also experiencing that, and so I'm doing good. And let me just say, I'm glad I have people around me that support me, and I'm glad that I have tools in my toolbox to help me kind of go through, because my resiliency, we talk about resiliency this year a lot, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm still building my resiliency. We talk about children having resiliency, but they haven't even begun to build their resiliency. They're just in the very learning. So I don't like when that term is always used, because I feel like that is something that we all have to build on, just like we have to build muscles. It's our resiliency muscle. So I'm working on that right now.
Love that. I love your honesty, right? And I think so many of us would echo that and say, yeah, like, really, I'm good. Like, if you check the boxes, shelter, food, clothing, good.
Mhm.
And yet there's this constantly changing landscape that invites us to go right over the edge into, maybe I should freak out.
Right. And I think that all women need to be honest about that, because we do, how are you doing? I am doing fine, is our answer that we need to answer. But I think that sharing of our stories and sharing our personal struggles do help us connect. And I think connection is what we need more than anything right now. And sharing those struggles along with blessings, I think are important. And we as women can really have that internal or intrinsic dialogue that is not helpful to us when we start saying, well, I'm really blessed, I have all of these needs met. I really shouldn't be complaining. All of those kind of conversations come up. And really, it's okay to complain sometimes. It's just we don't want it to be chronic, and we want to get support for that, whatever that looks like for someone.
I love that. That's awesome. So that's a great segue to we are blessed by each other's stories, right? So I want all the people to hear your story. Tell me about your health journey. And I know you could take 3 days and tell us about your health journey, but maybe the 5-minute version.
Yes, I get that. Right now, why I do what I do is because of my health journey, as so for so many of us. And my health journey probably started about 25 years ago. Always interested in exercise, always kind of interested in semi-healthy eating. I was 29, 30, but I was diagnosed with early stage colon cancer. And so that was a big scream at a young age. And so I really had to think about what I wanted to do. And I certainly didn't think about it all at once because I was going through the process. But I was blessed because it was caught early. I had the opportunity to go to Mayo, and I really saw an integrative piece of healthcare, which I really was delighted in. And I knew at that time I would be some way involved in integrative health in some way. It took many years later, 10 years later, before that actually transpired. But I came home and I knew all of the things that I was supposed to be doing um, because of having colon cancer and what I needed to do. But I really didn't know. I was overwhelmed, and I really didn't know how to do those things in my everyday life. And so I actually reached out to a health coach many years ago, Jessica Eidelman, and I really saw that that was the piece that was missing in my healthcare piece. And I'm really thankful for all of the people that have been on my team, from chiropractors to all my physicians to my physical therapist. I met with nutritionists and dietitians when I was at the Mayo Clinic. But the piece was when I was in my home, now what? I kind of knew what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to eat more fiber. What things had fiber or how much fiber in them? What is the optimal amount of fiber that I should take? And so all of those pieces became very overwhelming for me. And I kind of broke it out into, okay, I'm going to do 10 grams at the time. The recommended was 30 grams of fiber. It's more now, but I was like 10 for breakfast, 10 for lunch. And then I soon found out that I had a celiac component to my genetics. And so all of the whole grain that I was bringing into my diet did not serve me well in the beginning. And that was before gluten-free was really a talk or a conversation. So nobody was really talking about that. And it wasn't diagnosed until way later. And so I started learning. And once I took gluten out of my diet, I just started reading and what could be happening. And so I did. I took it out of my diet and began to feel better. But the overall theme was I knew that people really needed the support of the everyday life and actually how to behaviorally change, simplify. And I started years of learning how to do that for myself and how to get support for myself. And then I decided to go back to school and learn even more. And and the kitchen therapy has evolved. But it really was what I was supposed to be doing. We all know when we're in that place of we know. And I was in an office seeing clients and online, but it was really when I went into people's kitchens, or as you have said, you've been into my kitchen, cooking kitchen, which I'm not having right now. But going into people's kitchens, I really learned what their hangups were. and quicker than if I was just in an office, and really got down to it pretty fast on where they needed support. And, behavioral changes is all about brainstorming and guiding someone. It's not about telling them what they need to do and not do. And so, with that support and gentle guidance, it really is. And now that I've had clients in the kitchen and have learned the feedback and gotten the feedback, I'm like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it fills me up because I'm in community too. And so it is all about community. Again, I really believe that community is the key to health. And so that is my story.
Love it.
That's
Oh my
brought
gosh.
me right here.
Thank you so much. I love that. And I just want to echo back that community piece. And I think there are messages that we get of like, this food is bad or this thing is bad, or and I've really been embracing a lot and minding my own thoughts around, no, food is good, right? Food is part of how we interact and how we do community in like every culture on the planet. So let's don't vilify food, right? But
Right.
let's find the things that fill us up, that serve our bodies well, all those good things. I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so give us 3 habits. I know you have a great routine that you've learned over the years for caring for yourself. Give us your top 3 that help you protect your health. Top 3 habits.
Okay, so it's funny because that was my struggle in the beginning, but I will say time. And I know that sounds really funny, and it's not like I micromanage it, but I do pay close attention to how I'm spending my time. And so I will every once in a while I'll track if I'm getting off. And when I say track, I will literally track how I'm spending my time, and see where those where what align with my values. So that would be number one, is really pay attention to how I'm spending my time. Does it serve my value? And how can I tweak that? And it really helps me with setting healthy boundaries for myself and others. I think that's really, really key. The other is staying with my values. So I'll use, so every year at this time of the year, I always retake, and there's a great um, personality value test that you can take that's like 5 minutes and free online. And I take that again, and then it prints out a great results. And I'll have to look that up in a second for everyone. But it's I'll do it again to see if I'm evolving, where are my values at. But then I'll only choose like two, maybe a couple to really focus, to delve down into, and really make sure that I'm in alignment with my values, with what is important to me. And I would also say the third, there's so many, and also these don't have anything to do with food. Like, that's the funny part, right? Is my mindset. And so in the kitchen specifically, it's always kind of looking at what is my mindset here. And if my mindset's getting to a place, and it inevitably does with me, I don't really want to make dinner the life of what we have going on. It's just gotten kind of busy, or I'm just tired, or it's just, whatever. We talk about the hangups. So, the hangups, we all have them, right? And they can be, I cook by myself, my family doesn't like what I cook, I don't really have confidence in what I'm cooking. I know how to cook food, but the type of food that I know how to cook isn't in alignment with getting healthier, so I don't have the confidence to cook in a healthier way. That could be, a habit. I'm so tired. We're so busy, we hear this a lot. So those three, so what is that mindset that, and thinking about fixed mindset and growth mindset, where can we grow in that mindset? And we all have to, and so one more, I'm going to say 4 habits, because this is probably the overall that is definitely community.
Mhm.
Mhm. Have my people. And
Okay,
those
I
people
wrote
change
those
all the
down.
time.
I totally wrote those down because I think they're the best. And
Oh,
what it makes me think of is we've all seen the statistic, right? That caring for yourself, only 20% is what you do in the gym, and the other 80% is what you put on your fork. And what I'm thinking is
yeah,
only we're going to make a new meme that says only whatever percent is what you eat, how much you exercise, and the rest of the percent is, are you willing to invest the time? Are you willing to do things that are going to align with your values? You know, I tell people like CrossFit is not for me. That doesn't make CrossFit not good. It makes it not for me. Like what fills
right,
my soul and what I will
right.
do is yoga and Pilates. So that makes me good. That makes CrossFit good, right? But like let it align with your values, your mindset, what you tell yourself about what you're doing probably has more to do with its impact than what you're actually doing. This is kind of off subject, but it reminds me of the statistic or the research that was done with hotel cleaning staff. And they had half the group tell themselves they were exercising while they were cleaning, and the other half, they didn't tell them anything. And they found that the group that thought they were exercising burned more calories and had better results than the group that just thought they were cleaning rooms, right? Like what we
That's
tell
so
ourselves,
amazing.
isn't that it's fabulous?
It is. That is amazing. I love that.
Yeah, crazy. Okay, what's been the biggest challenge balancing mom life with career life? And then what's been the biggest
Oh,
for success?
what has been the biggest help or success? Okay, so first of all, the biggest challenge with balancing is the ebb and flow of it, like constant change. So that is definitely so learning how to go with the challenge. So I'm going to put that in like one category and talk about. I just talked about this with a client this morning. We get in our mindset that we're supposed to all have dinner together, and um, and as children, my kids are not super busy. That's intentional, but a lot of kids are super busy and like sports, a lot and do a lot of stuff, and we all get busy. Um, but we keep hearing, oh, well, having dinner is the quality time that you need to spend with each other, and there's truth to that. I mean, there can be quality time spent at dinner, but as kids get older too, jobs come into play, and I have I'm experiencing that right now. And so my mindset about how we're all spending time together can ebb and flow, and it can change. And so adjusting to that and being open to that change. We're all experiencing this right now, right? We've had to ebb and flow a lot, and change a lot. And sometimes it can bring up fear. And that's always a thing. For living light comes from living in my space of God. And so fear, I'm human, I'm going to have fear pop up. But when I'm really noticing how that's making me feel, or what needs are being met or not met, delving kind of deep into that, it's important to know that it's constantly changing. The second piece is kind of my own doing. I love what I do. And so, spending too much time doing work, or um, figuring out when to turn off and turn on, especially when you're at home, is a difficult thing, I think, for a lot of us. And a lot of us are home right now. And I think that piece is really, honestly, very, very difficult, or can be very difficult. And one of the things that I, try to do with balancing that is I try to blend it. And so what I'm making for maybe with clients is also what I'm going to make at home for dinner, and so I try to lessen and simplify my mind to make that balance uh, come true. And so the second part of your question is, what has been the biggest help or success? And having support to be able to talk through these things, for sure. As a mom, and you have to talk to other people that have experienced or are experiencing. this and brainstorm different ways that moms are doing it or not doing it, and still be able to go on your, your individual path. So what's going to work for one mom is probably not, just like food. Um, it's not going to work for someone else, but just being heard, I think, is the biggest. Just being heard and saying, this is really tough. And I went through this experience with a mom this morning whose kiddo is getting ready to move out, and we were talking about chores, and that everybody kind of has, and she has beautiful children, and that person didn't do their chore of like cleaning up the dishes, and they were piling up, and it really, when she really delved down to her feelings of what that made her feel like, it was really about the fear of her kiddo leaving, and and not really wanting to say anything to him about it because she felt like it would push him away. And I just thought that was beautiful, but it took a few minutes. And when we're doing that by ourselves, it can be a little harder. But when we have support people and a community around us to help us kind of brainstorm those things and talk through those and delve deep, we may cut it short in our head, or we may talk ourselves out of something in our head. But if we're speaking it, um, it could be a little bit helpful, or somebody might say something that we'll just see it in a different way. So that's really important for me, and probably the biggest help that I get, and helps me succeed, is just to be real and share it.
I love that. I love that. So, two of the things that stood out to me were what I would call repurposing, right? How is something
Yeah.
I'm doing in this area something I can bring
Mm.
over here? So, I'm cooking with clients. So, how can I then also feed that food to my family? Or I do a lot of marketing on social media. So, how can I take this Facebook Live and also make it a YouTube video? Or, so how do we
Right.
repurpose those things? How can I work out with my kids? And then it's quality time and a workout, all those sort of repurposing things. I loved that for sure. And I 100% agree with the community piece. And I think women in general, this is a generalization, but I think a lot of women are wired as verbal processors, right? And I got
Yeah.
to do a visioning piece with a group of women on Friday at a lunch meeting. And one of the gals was going to share, and she kind of started with, well, I don't really know, and I didn't have anything. But as she kept talking, she not only asked her question, but she also gave herself her own answer. And I said, can I
Yeah.
pause you? Because you had the answer to your question within yourself. When you
Yeah.
just took time to talk it out with the rest of us, you already knew how to get where you want to go in this case. It was so beautiful. I think we don't trust ourselves sometimes,
Hmm.
and that verbal
Hmm.
processing can let that come out. So I love that.
Hmm. That's why being in someone's kitchen, that's why that's so, because so many times the answer comes for them. And we were speaking about habits, and I often I think about, and I'm trying to think of kind of what I was where I was going with this. I know it was important. Uh, we Yeah, I'll think about it in a minute. I'll bring it back up when I think
I
about
love
it.
it. That's why I love talking with you, because it's like, oh, one idea sparks another idea, and it's just going 90 to nothing up
I
here.
I just I just wrote down repurpose your time. I think um that's magical. Yeah, I love that word. Repurpose.
Okay, so one of the things about me is I find myself planted in the health and wellness industry, and I have found that fascinating for almost 2 decades, because I actually have a business degree and worked 15 years in corporate America. So I keep asking
Love
God,
it.
like, why? Why am I in health and wellness when I have this business side? And what keeps coming back is because there's financial health too. So I say all that because this next question is sort of a weird segue, right? But we need to take care of what we put on our fork, but we also need to take care of our financial assets and resources too. So every person deals with money. What are some money lessons that you've learned that you can share?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I had a space too. So I operated a business, the To Be Well, which is now online. Um, And so I learned a lot of, so so probably money lessons would be also to get support in that, because I am creative. And so I'm thankfully married to an accountant, so that's helpful. And but I had support at To Be Well too, with Denise, who helped me out a lot. So that would be one. And then also charging what I'm worth. I think that just goes back to what we're speaking about as entrepreneurs, and as a business major. And I didn't know that about you, so that's fun to learn. um, it really is important to charge for our time and for what we're doing. And when we give away a lot, you also take away from the person being accountable in that way. So as an energy exchange, I think that's really important. Even when I've offered scholarships, which I do offer a scholarship, it's still a percentage, because I think it's important that somebody have that gain, and I will help them with that, so we'll spread that out, but they need to have that want, and that drive to do that. So I think that's, um, money is a really tough one for me. Like, I had to go through a lot of healing, and that worth and charging. And I think specifically in the health and wellness industry, that is very true. And but I think it's changing too. So I see a lot of hope in people really starting to understand that this is key. Because I use the example of, if a doctor might refer to me from a client, well, why do they need to do that too? Well, they don't get any about what I'm doing in that office. Like, that's not a piece of what they get at all. And I get to help them go from A to B. That's a really important support system and place to be. So I think those are some of the money issues that I am still learning.
Journey, right? It is.
It is a
Definitely.
journey. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love what you shared about it having value in the marketplace. And I've seen in the 20 years, there used to be a lot more conversations about budgeting for prevention and self-care. And now that's a little more mainstream, that we put value on that. It's like, well, if a doctor wrote you a script for, let's say, a blood pressure medication, you didn't budget for that, but you'd figure it out, right? Like, you'd go to the pharmacy and get it filled. So we already know that feeding our bodies well is going to help us stay well and stay out of the doctor's office. Can we budget for that too? Time and money to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more thing to that, because you
Good.
made me think of it. In my agreement that I have when somebody works with me, um, or with my proposal, one of the items that I put on there is find resources. And so that is a way to say, um, that I'm here to support you, but you have to be able to find resources if I'm going to be a good fit for you. And so that is a financial resource, but it's also time, because it takes, it's not just financial. If you're going to spend money on something, you want to do the work. Both people do the work. And so you have to be ready to do that.
Love that. Okay. Tell me about some lifestyle habits that feed your soul. I think you've given a few, but
hmm I have a lot. Restorative. So that would be one. I am generally, people would not, because I love community, but I am introverted, and so I have to recharge. Like, there's no, and the more I evolve, the more I need to recharge. And so when I think I need to push through, I don't push through. I stop, and I build in restorative to my life. That's probably the number one key. As far as lifestyle, habits is I kind of just really always evaluate how I'm doing something in the kitchen. And so I like to really evaluate that. And I'm like a mad scientist. So I really like to find the simplest way to the means. I don't want to make it complicated for myself or for others. And so for me, I love evaluating and always asking the question, is this the best way? Is this working for me? What I've done, what I've always done, is this working for me anymore? Maybe not, maybe so. And then of course, back to the habits, which are, lifestyle, whole foods for sure. That's key for me. So simplicity. So I take that simplicity and I take that to my food too. So not boring. So there's a difference in simplicity. I say not a lot of ingredients, not a lot of for a recipe, not a lot of instructions. That will keep it simplistic for me.
But onion and garlic and everything. The more plant-based I cook, the more onions I go through. And I'm just thinking, oh, my immune system is just loving all of this onion that it's getting. It's so good.
Hmm.
Funny.
Yeah, I tell everybody, throw an onion in your roasted vegetables, always, always, always. Two or three, maybe,
Yeah.
have it in the middle of all of it because we just eat it. We just eat the onions when they're roasted and when they have all that flavor.
It's
Yes.
good. Okay, you're making me hungry. I'm gonna have to go roast some vegetables for this.
Yeah.
I think you've maybe said this, but if you want to say more, tell us why you do what you do and serve where you serve.
Um, well, first of all, I serve a lot of people that have had cancer because that's a world that I understand and also really am close to my heart. And plus, there's a lot of motivation. They've had a big scream in their life, and I mean people that are past, the initial and things that they're going through. That would because that would be overwhelming in itself for someone to change all of this while they were going through treatment. So um, that would be something that I would add to this. But I just really love being that prop, just propping someone up and walking with them in their kitchen to change. And there's just like this, it's what I wanted, what I needed when I was doing the same thing, and I still need it. And so it's just like shoulders come down. I'm so glad that you're doing this with me. And sometimes they're figuring it out themselves. I'm just there. And but sometimes that's all that's needed to take them to the step that really will be sustainable for them. So that's I and I the last, and I've mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again. It fills my soul to be in community. So I'm like, I live a nomad life when I'm driving out to someone's house. And even though I'm not always, I'm home some because I have my membership, but then I have my clients. And so it just really fills my soul to work in both worlds and to have that flexibility.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay,
Mhm.
so I have some rapid fire questions I didn't send you ahead of time because I love to see, kind of like what pops out of your brain. I call these soul snacks, right? Because we're talking about food, and fork fighters. So these are our soul snacks. So first thing that pops in your
Oh,
head, what's your favorite food or meal, the thing that brings you comfort and peace?
oh my gosh, I have so many. So I'm gonna say good that fills my soul because it takes me back to my grandmother is chicken soup. And so real chicken soup and full of vegetables, full of bone broth, which my grandfather owned a meat locker. And you can do vegetable broth too, but I grew up if anybody doesn't know what a meat locker is, if you're listening, that is what everybody's freezer was way back in the day. And I actually was alive when that first started. So it's a freezer that is community. It's a community freezer because no one had freezers at the time, individuals freezers. So we had a lot of bones, and so I always remember my grandmother. And mind you, my grandmother in 2 weeks is turning 106, and amazing. She's doing amazing. And I say amazing for a 106-year-old. Her little physical body is, of course, 106 almost. And so that for me is so she was always making bone broth. So that's always brings me back, tons of joy. I also love a good bowl. So I'm thinking like sweet potato and chickpea and kale, like with lots of seasoning on it. That always fills my, it's just warm to my soul during this time of year. I just love that. So did I answer the question?
Yeah, you totally did. That brings me to another question that's not on the list, but I have to ask you this. Do you have a spice blend you could not live without, or do you make your own spice blend? Like at our house, we have a rule that everything's better with garlic, salt, and Cavender's Greek seasoning. There's just some things that like I would not
Live
want
without.
to not have in my kitchen.
Yeah, so rosemary, thyme, and sage probably are always my go-to. I also use a US Wellness, which I wish I could come up with the combination of it, the combination of the seasoning, but it's like a salt. It's just an overall wellness seasoning. But I buy it in bulk and I sell it at wholesale for everybody that wants it, just because I like it so much, and it's a really big container. I just, I think Greek is great. I love to make a lot of my own seasoning, and I like to play around with it. So I like to put like lavender and things, and and salts, and just play around with all of that. But I would say my go-to is probably my herbs, which is sage, thyme, and rosemary, which is just there. Isn't there a song like who sings that? Sage,
It's
rosemary, and thyme.
Mary.
Yes,
Names.
yes,
Peter, Paul, and
yes.
Mary. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Isn't
Thank
that them?
you. Thank
Rosemary,
you.
sage, and thyme. Yes. Thank
I
goodness
love
I
it.
have a mother of the 60s. So I know those songs. Okay, next rapid fire question. What does some people think about you that is often wrong? Something people
oh yeah, that I am perfect in the kitchen.
Wait, you mean you burn stuff?
Oh my gosh. So let's talk about Facebook Live. So we're on Facebook Live. My first one I did when we first went into quarantine, I started doing some what's for dinner. And I did a few live ones that I would just do dinner. And the first one I did, not only my oldest daughter was in the room kind of helping me with navigating electronics while I was cooking. And the smoke alarm went off because I forgot about something. I didn't turn the fan on or whatever. So I'm live on Facebook, and my smoke alarm went off. Not only that, my daughter in the background says, "Oh, that happens all the time with my mom." So like truth serum came out, and I don't. So I think that they wouldn't know is that they're like somebody apologizes to me because they're choosing something bad for them, and that's just not who I am. Like that's not at all that's not who I am at all. So that would probably, not that I'm perfect. The other thing that people probably don't know about me is that I am not, my favorite is not baking. And so I am getting a little better. My oldest daughter actually likes to bake and is better. She's a more precise cook and likes measurements, and I'm not so much a precise cook. So baking is a little tougher for me because I have to be more exact or it doesn't turn out right. So baking, I mess up a lot.
I love it. And I love it that you put it in the category of delegate the stuff that you don't love, right? Like just get a kid to bake for you because they're really good at it.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
try to be something you're not. I love that. Okay. Name
Yeah.
something in your fridge right now that's unusual.
Hmm. Uh, well, I don't know if jicama is unusual. I mean, like going through my refrigerator, looking at, I have pickled asparagus. That may be a little unusual for people. Um, let's see. I have all my seeds and nuts in my freezer. I don't know how unusual that is. Um, I don't know if I have too many other unusual things. I'm going at the top. Miso, I always keep miso paste in my refrigerator. That might be a little unusual. I have a really great miso dressing um, that is just yummy and super easy with sesame oil and rice vinegar and green onions, pepper, and miso, yellow miso paste. It's so good.
That sounds really good. Oh my gosh. I love
and
that.
s- and yeah,
Yeah.
super
Okay.
simple. Yeah.
Describe an everyday moment that brings you much joy.
Okay, so I'll have to say this because um, my daughter brought it to my attention uh, uh, yesterday, but there's nothing that brings me more joy into having my family with me in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so doing it together. Not just me doing it for them, but doing it together. And I that's my love language, like one of them. It used to not be, so that would be maybe something that people don't know about me, is that this was a struggle for me. Um, and so I had to learn, I learned this. Like this was over many years of learning. My mom was not a cook. Both my grandmothers were, so I always kind of knew it in the back of my head, but I didn't experience it. So, um, yeah, I would say that probably would bring me the most joy.
Love it. Okay. Your favorite word.
Oh, it's two words together.
Okay.
Restoration with creation. That's
I
three
love
words.
it. Who cares? We don't follow rules.
Uh, yeah,
We're just making it up as
because
we go along.
I'm such a creative soul, and I like have more visions that I have time to do. And if anybody is like that, like a vision type of person, that's who I am. But I need rest, and so I was trying to put those in two separate categories. And a couple of years ago, I put them together, and it just feels like so good for me.
Love that. Love it. Okay. Assuming there's a God at the end of your life, what would you like to hear him or her say to you?
Oh, well, God is a huge piece of my life. So, um, uh, I would want him to say, life uh, lived well.
Yeah.
Life on earth lived well. Maybe I should say that. Life on earth lived well. And um, maybe also, um, you know, good, good involvement this go around. Like for me, like, yeah, I want to evolve. Like and I would want him to be proud that I evolved and learned and made my mistakes and learned from them and move forward. So yeah, yeah. That's a great question, by the way. I love that question.
So I stole the last two from Inside the Actor Studio on PBS. Do you remember that? There was
Oh,
an interview
I,
show, and I loved it. And he would ask your favorite curse word, but I don't want to get
what
blocked
was
on
his
the
name?
internet. I don't know his
What
name,
was
but oh my gosh, what a good
that was
interviewer. I'm telling you. So I do always, I'll ask you offline what your favorite curse word is. And then, so yeah, I'm with you. Like God's a huge part of my life, the focus of my life. And yet I put the assuming there's God just so we can get to the root of the question and
yeah,
not have to
I'm with
debate
you.
it. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for being here. I'm going to sign off of Facebook and then you and I can do what we wanted.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All
Bye
right.
guys.
And